Pranam to Sri Sadguru, Pranam to Swamiji. My greetings to the eminent speakers present on this side of the podium or in the audience, and also who have logged in. And good wishes and thank you to everybody for attending this session today. We kind of thought that it will be good before the family starts to share some memories, spending a minute or so each on Mr. Pattabiraman. We thought it would be good to kind of draw this session to a logical close, which is what I'm trying to do today. The topic is extremely contemporary and it will continue to stay this way for quite some time, as one of the speakers pointed out. But I think it is something that merits serious discussion. And I would like to thank Swamiji for approving the topic among many that were presented to him. Thank you to Professor Indra for bringing up this point. You picked a lot of different dialogues, different references, different books, including TV debates and so on, and brought up very nicely the situation which is prevailing today, which is some pretty strong critiques of Indic values and civilizational aspects. Professor Clooney suggested, and we totally agree, a civilized debate rather than just critiquing somebody's critique. That really leads nowhere. Professor Panneerselvam, who said, in his own wonderful way, that we need to recognize that there are various different cultures, and at the same time there is commonality across them. So we have to recognize that there are differences and recognize the commonalities with no compromise to the individual culture of a group or community. And Professor Radha Raghunandan gave with personal example, the act of retaining one's identity while ensuring harmonious dialogue. I just wanted to share some thoughts rather than talk more about this current dialogue or debate which is going on all over the world. Okay. In the chapter 4 of the Gita, Bhagavan says to the effect that this has been taught before. It's been taught before. It's been taught before. Over time, these teachings get less remembered, and therefore what he is really doing in that battlefield of the Mahabharata is to reinforce those same teachings which had been conveyed several aeons back in a cyclical manner. If we look at that, if we look at the episode of Prithu and Vena, which is in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita and which is also in the 18th Dashakam of Srimad Narayaniyam, Vena is a powerful king. He bans all form of worship other than worship of Vena himself. And, then I won't go into the episode in detail, but Vena was the predecessor to one of the avatars who's called Prithu, who then restores balance. So this whole thing about attacking a civilizational or a cultural way of life, existence, set of beliefs has happened before, and it will continue to happen. We have seen the same thing happening in Hiranyakashipu in our texts. Okay, so the essence of all this is two understandings. One, this kind of dialogue, criticism, attacks, if you would call it that, defense, etc., is cyclical. It will happen. It has happened before. It is happening now. It will continue to happen later. And the second thing is, the only way out of this is to have civilized discussion, to have civilized debate, and even the act of challenge and counter-challenge has to be civilized. Currently, as somebody who is an avid WhatsApp University participant myself, and I'm sure many of us will also think similarly to what I'm saying, there is a lot of attack and a lot of defense, but largely it seems to be uninformed attack and uninformed defense. I think, Professor Radha, you brought up this point, that we need to know what we are talking about, right? Whichever side of the fence you're on, know what you're talking about. Read, assimilate, reflect on it, and then you form a point of view and then you take it up. So I would submit, let the debates come. Swamiji pointed out, actually, there's 4 lines in that particular verse. Swamiji pointed out one in particular, which says, Vade Vade Jayate Tattva Bodha. This comes from a discussion between Rambha and the Rishi Shuka. The way to ensure true knowledge dawns on everybody is through Vada, which is a form of debate, the most civilized form of debate. And there is enough civilizational depth and cultural strength in this land to be able to absorb these discussions, to convince each other on what is the right logic, the right way of thinking. The Upanishads are all about that actually. To assimilate different viewpoints, however differing they may be, and to stay the course. Because for us, it is ultimately realization of our oneness with all of creation and that which is beyond creation. That is what is really the essence of the focus of the journey of life, as our texts tell us in various ways. I really look upon Swamiji, and I request Swamiji to have this topic to be discussed in more and more academic forums over time. Swamiji, in your own inimitable way, it will be lovely if it is done, because it has to be the serious, academically aware community that dialogues and, discussions between individuals who don't know. I'm not an academician. I will only share my viewpoint, which is not an informed viewpoint necessarily. So to have more such topics so that the right set of viewpoints comes across, the right set of assimilation comes across, I would submit is something that I would entreat you to do. The only other thing was, and once again, thanks to all the speakers and to Professor Paneerselvam, who's not present in person. The only other thing I wanted to say was, Swamiji said, those who wish to contribute for other endowment talks, currently Sri Vishnu Mohan Foundation has only one, which is the T.R. Pattabiraman Memorial Endowment Lecture. You can do it. It is not necessarily only for those who are no more with us. Okay, it is for the Gata soon and the Agata soon. Okay, you can do it. It is also not that it will only be, a seminar with dialogues and presentations. It can also be debates. It can be music. It can be different ways in which the endowment actually comes to life. So, with those words, I just wanted to thank everybody. We will now have the family talk about their individual experiences. I'm part of the family, so I will also talk about it a little later. But once again, my thanks to everybody for Swamiji's, thank you so much for this topic. I think it is time it kind of comes into the sunlight and is discussed in serious forums. And thank you once again to the speakers. Thank you to Professor Indra for initiating this dialogue. Pranams to Sri Sadguru, pranams to Swamiji. Narayana.
Sri Kumar, for your closing remarks. I'll now request Pattabiraman family to felicitate the speakers.